Your throat is dry enough that swallowing hurts. It has been building since yesterday. Your thoughts have gone slightly fuzzy at the edges. That fuzziness makes you distrust your own judgment. 40 meters down the slope, water is sitting in a rock basin. It is fed by a trickle seeping out of the stone above it. It is water. It is close. It would end your suffering in under a minute. You have not moved toward it. Something is holding you back. You have not worked out what that something is. This hesitation is the entire subject of this video. The pause between seeing water and drinking it. Reading water without a lab was one of the most advanced skills our ancestors had. No test strip, no modern equipment of any kind. The tools they used were built into their bodies. They were built into their communities too, and into their memory of the land itself. Start with the stakes. The danger here was never small. Cholera, typhoid, dysentery, giardia, hepatitis. The list of diseases carried in bad water is long. Every one of them existed in the ancient world. In places without clean water today, contaminated water still kills more people than almost anything else. It was no different 10,000 years ago. Children were hit hardest. Their immune systems were less experienced. Their small bodies could not survive severe dehydration as easily. Archaeologists can still read this history in old bones. Growth interruptions, stress markers left behind by childhood infections. A community that repeatedly chose the wrong water did not just get sick occasionally, it lost people, generation after generation. The ability to judge water correctly was not a minor bit of folk wisdom, it was survival infrastructure, ranked right up there with fire and food knowledge. It was built from 4 things: smell, sight, taste, and the behavior of every animal sharing the landscape. Start with the nose. It is far more capable than most people give it credit for. Smell has a direct line to the brain's emotional core. It skips the slower, more rational processing other senses go through. That is why a bad smell does not invite consideration. It triggers instant physical recoil. The chemical signatures of bad water are specific. Sulfur from bacteria working without oxygen, ammonia from decaying waste, sharp notes from an algae bloom turning toxic. The human nose can pick up many of these compounds at dangerous concentrations. That is not a coincidence. It is the fingerprint of selection pressure. Humans whose noses caught these warnings early lived longer. They had more children too. Multiply that advantage across hundreds of thousands of years. You get a species with a built-in early warning system, standing guard at every water source. Now the eyes, which were doing just as much work. Clear water is not automatically safe. But water with color or cloudiness is never silent. It is always saying something. A greenish tint often meant an algae bloom. Sometimes that bloom carried toxins strong enough to sicken anything that drank it. A reddish tinge could point to iron in the rock, or to the microbial blooms that ride along with it. A milky haze usually meant fine sediment or dissolved minerals. Water gone dark and murky was a sign of heavy organic matter, the byproduct of things rotting nearby. None of these signs guaranteed danger on their own, but strung together across a lifetime of watching, they became a reliable code. Cloudiness mattered too, even without any color change. Suspended particles give bacteria something to cling to. So turbid water quietly carries a heavier microbial load. Generations of watching cause and effect turned that into working knowledge, long before anyone understood the microbiology behind it. If there is one signal that mattered more than any other, it is this: what were the animals doing? Every animal in a landscape has been testing the local water for generations. They use their own lives as the experiment. They carry the same vulnerability to waterborne disease that humans do. A source that reliably makes animals sick gets avoided by animals, consistently and for good reason. A source that is safe gets used constantly by everything. When the deer, the antelope, and the birds were drinking freely with no ill effects, that was a strong safety signal. When a promising-looking pool showed no tracks at all, that absence was itself a warning. This was not superstition. It was not a lucky guess. It was reading the results of a monitoring network. That network had been running continuously, for far longer than any human had been alive. The animals were running the water quality tests. The humans who paid attention were reading the results for free. Zoom out from any single pool. Ancient people carried something even bigger, a map. Not a drawn map, a memorized one, built from the experience of everyone who came before. Moving water earned more trust than standing water. Flow dilutes contamination. It keeps things from settling long enough to multiply. It stirs in oxygen that many pathogens cannot tolerate. A spring pushing up through rock came pre-filtered by the ground itself. Rain caught before it touched soil was about as clean as water got. Surface water near heavy animal traffic carried more risk. Communities held all of this as living memory. Which spring never failed? Which stream turned dangerous at a certain time of year? Which pool was fine right after rain but turned foul after sitting for days? None of it was written down. It lived in the memory of the community's elders. It moved forward one warning at a time. Do not drink from the eastern pool once the dry season starts. That was not superstition. It was a data point, tested and confirmed across generations. Knowing when to say no to water is only half the picture. The other half is what people did when saying no was not an option. Fire gave them their most powerful tool. There is every reason to believe they used it. Heat kills most bacteria and parasites outright. It knocks down viral contamination significantly. A community would have noticed the pattern soon enough. People who drank heated water got sick less often. That kind of pattern does not need a scientific explanation to become a rule. Plants offered a second line of defense. This part of the story is genuinely remarkable. Certain seeds, barks, and roots contain natural compounds. Those compounds clump bacteria together and pull them out of suspension. Moringa seeds are the best documented example. Used for generations in parts of Africa, later confirmed by modern researchers to actually work. Similar traditions show up independently across Asia and the Americas. That is not coincidence. It is the same discovery process happening in isolation, arriving at the same answer. Last line of defense: taste. The sense that catches whatever slipped past everything else. Sulfur compounds register as bitter or sour, even in tiny amounts. High mineral content leaves a distinct metallic edge on the tongue. Heavy organic contamination tastes earthy, musty, sometimes outright foul. Bitterness triggers one of the strongest aversion responses humans have. Across evolutionary history, bitter has so often meant toxic. It is not a perfect system. Some dangerous water tastes completely clean. Some safe water tastes strange for harmless reasons. But it was one more layer of protection. Far better than nothing. Communities taught their children to trust that response. Water that tastes like that is not water you drink. Simple enough to remember. Important enough to save a life. Back to the pool at the base of the outcrop, 40 meters away. You are still standing there. Your thirst has not eased even slightly, but your senses have quietly finished their work. The smell is not violently wrong, just off in a way that keeps your nose from relaxing. The color carries the faintest green cast at the shallow edges. Easy to miss unless you are actually looking for it. The mud at the waterline is smooth. No hoof prints, no paw marks, no bird tracks at all. For this landscape, in this season, that silence is the loudest signal of all. You remember a spring 2 kilometers east, up where the dark rock gives way to pale granite. You have been there before. The water runs clear and cold. The ground around it is worn down by every animal for miles. It has never once let you down. You turn east. No lab, no test strip, no equipment of any kind. Just a body and a mind trained by generations of accumulated knowledge, making a call in seconds. It did not work every single time. Some lessons were learned the hard way. And paid for dearly. But across enough generations, it worked reliably enough to keep entire populations alive. They read water the way they read everything around them, as a system full of signals, legible to anyone with the right knowledge and the patience to learn it. What they learned, they did not lose. They passed it forward, so the next generation never had to start from zero. They knew which water was safe, not with certainty, not without cost, but reliably enough to survive.